Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Strength Intelligence Podcast. Today, I spoke with Michael Stroozas. He's a pro strongman and Moss wrestler. I came across him as I was scrolling through Instagram trying to look for new, interesting people to work with as a coach. And I noticed he was applying what most people would consider as really aggressive rehabilitation strategies following a biceps reattachment surgery. So naturally, I was fascinated and I invited Michael on to talk to me about how he came up with these strategies, where he learned them, why he was applying them, and how he's had so much success so far. So, if that sounds interesting to you, then I think you'll enjoy this episode.
Well, thanks for joining me, Mike. Can I call you Mike or do you prefer Michael?
Both are fine.
Okay, perfect. And how do I say your last name? Stroozas?
That's exactly. That's like 1 in 100 people say it right the first time. Must be because you're Canadian.
Must be. That's awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. I really wanted to get to know you and understand how you came up with this rehabilitation protocol that you've been sharing on Instagram. And that's really how I found you. I was looking for I'm a coach. I love strongman, and I was looking for clients online on Instagram, and I just came across your page, and I was just like, man, this guy just had bicep surgery, and he is out there killing it, doing stuff that I would recommend and I've done before, but that most like medical professionals don't. And so that's why I was like, hey, shared your posts so people could see this stuff. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, some more today. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So thanks for joining me. But before we get into the rehab stuff, I wanted to like understand who you are as an athlete and kind of like how you got to this point. So I'm curious, like I see you're a pro strongman and you're into Moss wrestling.
Yep.
And so maybe you could just tell me a little bit, like, how long have you been doing that stuff? How long have you been competing? When did you get your pro card? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's been almost a 20-year journey now. I always, like a lot of us, I thought strongman was cool. I watched it on TV. This is before like the big era. This is back in like the Sven Carlson, kind of that era where it seemed like it was dominated by like Nordic guys.
Yep.
And it's really popular in Minnesota. Minnesota's like Canada Light. We all joke that like sometimes we wish we just get adopted. But I didn't know. I just thought they like rounded up. They just found these guys on the planet and just said, "Oh, come do this." And I'm walking by a festival one day, and all of a sudden I see a guy that I've seen on TV. I see Dave Ostlund, a multiple World's Strongest Man finalist. I'm like, what the hell is he doing here? And it's just a local parking lot show, and I had no idea that existed. This strongman was so little at the time; it wasn't nearly like it is now. And so I went and started chatting with the guys, and they're like, "Yeah, come train with us if you're interested. You can do this contest next year and go to nationals." And so then that started me. Now Dave Austin's he's a good friend. We've been friends off and on, training off and on for 20 years. Even worked together and stuff in his business and things like that. And so the next year I competed, got a great taste for it, went to nationals, did okay, kind of like middle of the pack type of thing.
Yep.
And then my first kid, who's now turning 18, was born. And then I actually didn't compete again besides those couple times until 2014.
Okay.
It was crazy, but I got right back in with the guys. And I felt like, I need to take a few years to get ready and, get strong again. And I remember Dave being like, no, he's like, he goes, he's basically like, I got you into this big pro-am show in California. We're all going to train for it. That's, he's like, he goes, if you get ready for a show in 3 months, you think you're 3 years away from, he's like, you'll be stronger than you can possibly imagine in 3 months. And he was right. Okay. So I jumped right back in. And I started doing like the highest level shows right out of the gates. And a few years later in 2017, I was competing against him and several other World's Strongest Man athletes, and then a big field of amateurs at a Pro-Am in Los Angeles, the Odhaugen Strength Decathlon in 2017. And that's when I was the highest placing amateur and won my pro status.
That was awesome.
that was crazy. We don't have a show like that anymore. It was 12 events, 2 days. A couple of them were grip events. One of them was Moss. The rest were strongman. And to give you an idea of the strongman, one of the events was 1,000-pound frame into 1,000-pound tire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this was like no joke, events then. But you could skip 2. So you could either do all 12 events and take your 10 highest scores, or you could try to strategically skip 2 that might tire you out or you're bad at. There was a fun mental game to it. And also 2 to 4 of the events were mystery events that you didn't know until like when you got there.
Right. So lots of like strategy that came into play and had to be changed on the day of. Yeah, that's cool.
I went from that to several years of competing, the next 4 or 5 years through my first America's Strongest Man in the COVID year, which was obviously a bummer. It was an empty convention center in Savannah, Georgia. So it wasn't quite the experience I'd wanted. And I really was looking forward to doing it this year in Las Vegas because it's such a great venue. But that was a bridge too far with the bicep tear because it's only a few weeks from now. So,
okay.
And then I ended up with COVID changing kind of the business model because we had to have a bunch of the kids at home for school, and my wife had to deal with that. We have a blended family of 6, so a couple more years went by where I kind of had to lay off and just train to stay healthy. And then last year, I started training seriously again, came back and got invited. I was really fortunate that just, I got invited to the official strongman games. I didn't have to qualify. It was really, really cool of them. And, I promised her, I said, hey, I promise you I'll make the finals. You won't regret it. I know I've been out for a few years, and I did. I made the finals still, got 9th, was really hoping for better, but I get to go back this year and, inch up that. I think the World's Strongest Master is a pretty cool title, actually. Maybe I'm biased because I'm 43, but.
I was going to ask you if because I didn't watch that one, but did you compete as a Masters in that one or in the open class as a Masters?
I compete as a Master. I think it's a blast competing as a Master. I'm still going to compete as an Open. I did the Rainier Classic, pro show earlier this year. I'm still going to probably do 1 or 2 of those a year, for the right things coming up. But I really do have fun now I just think some of these Masters titles are really neat. And like this year, for example, in the Masters, we've got at World's Strongest Master, we've got JF Caron. He's going, his comeback from his, I think he had a leg injury, right?
Yeah.
Dimitar's doing it.
Nice.
Graham Hicks is doing it. So that's where you can kind of pile up and have fun competing against, these guys who, were the top level World's Strongest Man guys when they were just a little younger.
Right. Yeah, that is fun. I got a few more years before I'm a Masters, but it seems like the attitude is just like a great combination of competitive, but like that more relaxed and like having fun with it, right? So it's like you're a little older, but you still get after it on the battlefield and then have some beers after. Yeah.
No, it is. It really is that. And they don't. It's like I was looking at the weights for like last year and this year, and we're just a hair under the open class. It's not much different,
right? And
like our weights on our stuff this year and last year are the same weights that they were doing at like 2 of the big Giants live shows in England that I just watched are the same as the world level Masters weights.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy, and I get it when you have former World's Strongest Men coming to compete. You kind of need weights to challenge them, but it means that for us lesser mortals, there's it's like a big jump up there. But that's awesome that you're going to be able to get into that. So
and it's a weird, there's a strange fall off sometimes though to the local and even like regional level competition where the weights are like sometimes they're like novice level weights.
Yep.
It's a strange disparity. So you really have to like if you're going to compete as a masters athlete at a high level, you really have to like look for those maybe 2 to 3 national level shows that actually have like basically open level weights essentially.
Right. Yep. I know there's some in Canada. We have Strongman Corp Canada, and I think it's true what you just said. At least at the regional, provincial level, the masters weights are like maybe the under 105 kilo guy weight, something like that. So yeah, if you want to go up there, you really gotta basically compete with the open guys still as you work your way up, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's awesome. I wish you luck with that, but I still want to get to know a bit about where your strength is before we get into the rehab. So maybe could you tell me your best lifts or maybe your favorite lifts?
My favorite lifts are anything to do with natural stones.
Okay, cool.
Which is so exciting that we almost have natural stones at strongman games. They are fabricated natural stones, but I'll take it. So I'll take it. I hate tacky. I think I'm a big kind of minimalist when it comes to that. Obviously, I'll use it heavily in competition and training like anybody else does, but I think it really changed stone lifting into something different.
Right.
Because years ago, when tacky was just kind of a new thing, like it helped a bit, it gave you a little bit of stick, but like now I see when I came back after a break from competing, I'm seeing people lift these massive stones and their hands aren't even under the stone.
Right.
This tacky is so sticky, you can just have your hands on the side.
Yep.
And it's really become more of like, a technique lift than like a raw brute power lift, which natural stones with chalk, it's just power and it's just strength. There's no trick. Especially if you've never trained on it before.
Right. It's interesting. People might think about that the same way, or you might compare that to the same way, think about like equipped lifting.
Yeah.
Like equipped squatting or deadlifting, something like, or bench pressing, where it's like you're adding this technical element that you have to master, and it becomes somewhat of a different lift than just the raw form. I feel the same way on Atlas stones. Like the difference between what I can do with just chalk and what I can do with the tacky we have these days is like pretty astounding.
Well, and that's the other thing too, though, is that if you're going just chalk, you have to go much lighter because you will put your biceps in a terrible situation.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Okay. So what's the biggest stone you've ever lifted then?
So I've done a 432 to a platform.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. I've done a 432 to a platform, and I've just narrowly missed it to the shoulder on a natural stone.
Wow, that's massive, man.
Yep. I've done lots of right at 4. I've done lots of like 385, 390, just like right flirting line with 400 to shoulder, but I never had, funny enough, I've never found like a right exactly 400 stone. And for some reason I keep finding, I always over the years find like high 3s but then it jumps to like mid 4s. So I haven't taken a crack at like a right at 400, 405 to shoulder yet, which I'm looking forward to doing hopefully soon.
Right.
I have this crazy idea that I've still got a chance to run up to like a 500 natural stone before I get too old. So
nice. Hey, even if you don't get there, it's always great to keep those dreams, like keep you rolling along, because you never know, you might surprise yourself. And you got lots of competitive life left in you, right? So you said you're 43. So man.
I feel like a kid all the time.
That's good. I think strongman keeps you that way, You just have to have fun with it. And the
other thing I love is overhead pressing, specifically log lift.
Nice. That's my favorite too.
I took a run at this year. The plan was off season. This was my year that I was going to build to a 400-pound, 180-kilo strict log press.
Okay.
That's always been a lifetime kind of goal of mine, and I was on a good pace. I think before I got disrupted by kind of like my Moss training that I had to do for Worlds, and then the bicep injury, I was right around a 370, like 100 and what would that be, like 170 kilo ish, 175 kilo strict log.
Wow. That's awesome, man. That's a big log press.
Well, barring a couple guys who don't do the competition, the only on record, like unified, like world record for masters level log press right now is in the Static Monsters Federation.
Okay.
And Big Z did a 420, 190 kilo. And I thought, I was like, if I can get a 400 strict log, like that's, that would be within reach of breaking that, in the next couple of years.
Right. So, yep. That's all. Yeah, that is. I mean, if you can do it strict.
Well, don't get ahead of yourself. I don't get much out of my leg drive.
Okay. Okay. Good note for sure. Because I was just, how some people, myself included, it's like if I can strict press something, I throw my legs in, I get quite a substantial leap. But
not me.
Okay.
No.
All right, but still, strict 400 is crazy, man. And then it's really not that far from that record. So, well, that's all. I hope that you can get healthy, and it looks like you are. And so maybe let's switch pace to talking about that. Maybe first, can you tell me, like, how did you injure your biceps?
So we didn't touch on Moss wrestling, which it was at the Moss Wrestling World Championships in Mongolia, in August. Now, luckily, I've been really fortunate to be involved with Moss Wrestling for a long time, since kind of the start of it coming to the US.
Okay.
And I say that because it's made me a better strength athlete. It's given me a lot better body control for strongman and just life. And it has kept me so free of injury for a very long time. My wife and I do it, with our best friend, all of us do it for Team USA. And I think we've all agreed, especially, my friend Euless and I, because we've been doing it so long, that anytime we've been regularly doing Moss wrestling, even just the warm-ups or like light matches, we can't remember ever having any kind of injury from strongman or lifting.
Okay.
And any injury, anytime we have been injured, it's always been, except for this one injury of mine, it's always been when we haven't been Moss wrestling.
That's an interesting set of evidence you have there from a few people. Why do you think that might be?
So you're doing an extremely loaded isometric, right?
Yep.
You've seen Moss wrestling. Okay.
Yep.
But you're doing it at the same time as having to like undergo like dynamic stabilization in all of your joints, because you're moving as well.
Right.
And you're also moving in that rotational axis that we don't really ever do in strongman, or powerlifters don't do either. So I feel like it increases, like you're getting more mobile under huge isometrics.
Right.
And that seems logically to me, I don't have the credentials you do, but that always seemed logically to me to make sense, like why that would keep your tissues more resilient.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just to hear you say that, I think it might deserve further inquiry, to be honest, especially if you have multiple people feeling the same way, not just yourself. But it makes sense. Like, I've watched it before. I used to make strength equipment, so I made a Moss wrestling set actually for somebody.
Nice.
And I always thought, like, oh, this looks like really good exercise, but the risk of injury I thought would be higher, and maybe that's not true compared to what you're saying, because of what you said. You're doing like a full isometric, and then you're moving quickly. Someone's wrestling with you, right? They're trying to make you move where you don't want to move. And so I thought, well, that's a chance for some instability and potential injury. But to hear you say the opposite's quite fascinating, actually.
So including me, we had a field of, there were several hundred athletes there.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure the injury rate was 3 people.
Oh, okay.
And you see a greater injury rate than that in whenever it's been in a strongman contest. I'd say the percentage has been higher, so they don't really do it anymore.
Yeah.
That had more to do with strongmen would just try to straight on deadlift each other
Yes. Right.
without movement, and they weren't
Yeah.
trained, which is like it's like having someone do a sport they don't know how to do or just jump into it.
Yeah.
So,
And go full tilt too, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So then so you had this great
Yep.
kind of experience with Moss
Yeah.
wrestling, no injuries, keeping you healthy seemingly. Then
Yep.
what happened with your bicep?
So leading up to it, when I was training for the Rainier Classic, we had to do a stone to shoulder event with no tacky.
Okay.
So there was a
An Atlas
350.
stone?
Yeah,
Or-
there was there was 350 and 400 stones with tacky towel only.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I don't know why I got it in my head. This is a rare departure for me, like mental discipline wise. But when I was training for that, I have a 190 kilo stone that's like a really big. It's dusty. It's it's one of the older stones, not the nice sealed stones, right?
Yep.
And I was feeling so strong that I was like, I just want to mess with this just raw. Like I would just mess with it with nothing, no tacky towel, no chalk, no anything. And I managed to like get into my lap, and I was going to go for it, and my arm was quite sore the next day, my right arm.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice anything what I was doing. I was like, and I just thought, I just kind of strained my bicep probably a bit, whatever.
Yep.
And then a couple more times when I would be training, either strongman or Moss or whatever, my wife had noticed more than I did actually that I'd kind of be like massaging by my bicep or my brachialis, kind of subconsciously.
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure I had done some decent amount of damage to it that I was just kind of like skirting, getting ready
Yep.
on that stone lift. And then I was in my Moss match, my first one against the overall champion, and I did something that I had done a few times in training, which was I had people notice I was guarding my right arm. So like even on deadlift a few times, my right arm was just a tiny bit inflection, like just a hair, a degree or two, right? But enough for someone to be like, hey, be careful, your arm's bending a little bit on your deadlift there. And I made the same mental kind of error. So it was completely a mental mistake in my match. Instead of having that straight kind of tricep press down, locked out arms, my right arm actually bent a significant amount. I don't know if it was like a compensation or guarding again, but I did it to myself. And then the poor guy against me, he's a young guy, probably early 20s. He felt like it, he apologized. He was so worried. And I tried to tell him we were using Google Translate because he was from Kyrgyzstan. And I was like, hey, I think it was partially torn. It's not. Don't worry about it. Like, it's my own fault. I bent my arm. So it was completely user error. It was not the sport itself.
Right. Okay.
And I felt Velcro. I felt Velcro tear 1, and I was still holding on. And then I felt Velcro tear 2, and I was like, I should probably let go now.
Yep. Makes sense. Well, so the stone basically you think put you in a bad spot, some kind of injury, and then that was the that was the straw that broke the camel's back, right?
It at least made it like vulnerable.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is how you're pointing out how much that technique or position change can lead to injury, right? But when you're in a vulnerable state and then you are guarding against it, maybe I'd say there's a lesson to be learned here, that if you find yourself guarding at all, maybe take that seriously and maybe have it evaluated, maybe do some rehab work first, right?
Yeah. And that's just it. Is it was a lack. Something had caused, I think, a little bit of a lack of mobility too, which the previous year I had actually torn my proximal bicep tendon.
Okay.
And I didn't get it repaired because it was that week one, that phrase when you get older anyway, that it's not really worth doing for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It was the long head attachment of it, the one that goes through that groove in the humeral head. So, but I don't think I ever fully regained like the proper mobility
Okay.
So I think bicep mobility was something that I took for granted.
Yep.
And now looking back, it seems so obvious.
Right.
So
I see. So when you look back now, you see this kind of like series of events that had led to this. Yep. Okay. So was this your first major injury
yes.
from one of these sports? Okay.
Yeah. So I've been really, like I said, for a combination of reasons. I mean, I've made it a long time, I made it till my 40s before having, something like significant like this. I've had little things, tweaks, and,
Mhm.
a disc, having pressure, but nothing that required like anything besides some careful training, basically, and,
Yep.
rehab. So,
Okay. So you've been pretty fortunate. That's good.
yeah.
I think everyone has those little things, that
Yeah.
muscle strains and stuff, right? But
But we
so
see,
this is, what'd you say?
I said, but we see a lot of, you see a lot of injuries and a lot of guys, you know, starting at a young age, just piling up too. So,
Yep. I did, as part of my book, I did some research on injury rates, and I found one study for strongman. It said there was 82% of participants in the survey reported an injury over like a 12-month period.
yeah.
And I would actually argue if you trained or competed in strongman for longer than that, it's 100%, right?
Yes.
Something goes eventually, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. So, okay. So this is your first big injury. Did you pull was it a full tear or
Yeah.
just a part? Okay.
Yep. So it was a full distal bicep tendon avulsion. It was a 1.5 centimeter retraction. So it wasn't a nice spot for them to grab it and,
Mhm.
reattach it. It wasn't like it wasn't like 5 inches up my arm or anything. So,
Right.
but yep, it was a full one. Yep. And
Okay.
I had the surgery, where the hole drilled through the forearm bone, pull it through, cap it, and then where they put the anchoring screw also into the bone next to the tendon before they suture it.
Right. Okay. And after that was done, I'm interesting to hear this, which is what did the medical staff give you in terms of advice? I guess just in terms of like regaining, range of motion, probably is what they mostly focus on.
Yeah.
But did anyone give you any advice about how you can get back to training, whether you should probably never do it again? Like what was the sentiment that you got from your practitioners?
I found it interesting actually because I'm really lucky that I had established a good relationship with the group of orthopedic doctors that work with the NFL football team here.
Okay.
So they're guys who are, and the shoulder surgeon, arm surgeon specifically, does all the surgeries for pitchers and quarterbacks and all. So they know you're trying to get back to sport, right?
Okay, that's a
So
good start then.
what it actually surprised me a little that, and maybe it shouldn't have, looking at it because of all the liability issues with healthcare in the U.S. and stuff, is that they still gave me the same kind of soapbox speech they'd give anybody.
Mm,
Like, okay, you're going to have to be in this brace, immobilized 6 weeks, no doing anything. And then when it comes off, you're going to start, a certain amount of degrees at a time, straightening your arm, session by session.
right.
And then and then once it's getting closer straight, you're going to be doing physical therapy with, a 1 pound dumbbell, and
Mhm.
and it's going to take all these many months to be back to like this level and that level. And on the one hand, I understand because there's liability issues, I think, built in that they want to make sure people aren't, and they care. I don't want to
Yep.
demonize. They do care and they want
Yep.
people to be healthy. And then I also thought, they probably are used to working with athletes too, and they know that some athletes might get really pig-headed, which we all are.
Right.
And they probably know we're not going to listen anyway.
Yep.
So they might also try to tell us like the worst case scenario to almost scare us off into being extra cautious, because we tend not to be. So I think there's a lot of it. I would love, though, if you could have kind of an off the cuff conversation with some of these guys where it's
Yep.
not on the record and it's
Yep.
not the license on the line. So
Right. Like a little, like a studio you guys could go
Mhm.
to with no cameras and say, okay, let's have the real talk now. Yeah. That's, I also think about practitioners. a lot of them, one is experience. If they've never played any sports or had any patients try to return to sport, then they just don't know at all from their personal experience. And then the other thing is, I don't think there's any good research on that kind of return to sport. Like, my understanding is, like, for physiotherapists and doctors and stuff, it's like, we're just trying to get you kind of like back to work, back to normal average person life, right? And that's kind of where the research, I think, stops. And there's not too much where it's like, so it's like your and my average isn't just I need to walk around and sit at my desk. It's like, no, my norm is I'm pressing 300 pounds, 400 pounds over my head, right? And so I think, to be fair to them, there just isn't anything they can rely on unless they've personally gone through it or they've worked with a bunch of people. And that just isn't everywhere in front of every practitioner, right?
No, it's not. And I looked into it extensively. I read a lot of journal data, and I read a lot of kind of like case studies, and I also looked into like some of the more aggressive practitioners out there. And I found this was kind of as I had already started doing things on my own. I found a story. I couldn't find the actual doctor's like website or anything, but I found someone talking about it, an athlete saying like, there with Dr. So-and-so. It sounded like he was on the East Coast, I want to say, but he had this radical approach where he was like, we want you out of that brace. We want you moving your arm in 2 weeks. Like it was a completely upside down to what like and he only worked with athletes. Like he only did these surgeries on athletes. And so I thought that was really encouraging that I was on the right track. Like that it wasn't me just being stupidly aggressive.
Yep. Well, there's always that possibility, right? As an athlete, you have big goals and you got to get back to them, right? For you too, it sounds like you're an entrepreneur. You got a business to run, right? You got to get back to it. So,
and that was the primary thing. Like it's fun to do this like cool epic comeback thing, like to strongman and like, have this cool injury rehab and help other people with it. And I really want to do that. But the main thing was that I make my money with my hands and I can't, I had to make sure that I could be back to work, because, they don't want you really doing physical labor for 6 weeks. And that's not an option. I don't have paid time off.
Right. Yeah. You're like, I got to frame a house in 3 days. Like,
Yep.
Okay. So you kind of went into this. Maybe you could go a bit further. I'm curious then, like if this is your first big injury and you kind of had the regular kind of statements from practitioners about what you should do. That is not what you're doing, clearly, as I've seen in your videos. So where did you learn that? How did you said you read some journals and stuff, but like, did you do all that in the last like 5-6 weeks? Or like, how did you come across these mindsets and also the protocols you're using?
So everything I'm doing for the rehab portion, like the actual physical movement portion, that's all been just from my own mind, just as like it's just experience as an athlete and the absolute like treasure chest of information I've been exposed to competing for so long and just being around not only like athletes at the world-class level, but like coaches at the world-class level too. So it's just been absorbing a lifetime of information and knowing how to like use that for myself. So like, I think like, so the coaches I'm with right now with MST systems, like the way they understand movement and like movement preparation, it's working with them for the last year, like it ingrained a whole new set of information for me about like really thinking about body awareness and mobilizing and doing all that stuff right. And then the other person I like to give the most credit to from a coaching perspective is the legendary strength coach here from Minnesota, Cal Dietz, at the University of Minnesota. He's the one who invented triphasic training for athletes, which is ironically, that's the model that MST uses, like a triphasic approach to how they train strongmen.
Okay.
And he was a friend of Dave Austin's, and so we would go deadlift at the University of Minnesota strength and conditioning center regularly for many years.
Oh, very
And
cool.
we would always sit before and after. And he, Cal is this absolute genius, like almost like a madman genius when it comes to like the human body. And he would help us. He would help us with positioning, and he had this really layman type way of explaining why the body does what it does.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me like just little things about how to move right that took away my back problems. But the one thing that always stuck out to me is that he would say it. Maybe I think he said it more often, and it's like this cool story. I'm embellishing, which I have a tendency to do sometimes, but um, I swear he pounded it in our heads. He was so obsessed with movement being like if you don't like that, the opposite of movement is death.
Right.
Like it was just such a loud voice in my head. Anytime I've had, maybe my shoulder hurts a little, my knee hurts a little, my back hurts a little, my whatever. I'd always remember that. Like you have to find a way to move, like no matter what. You cannot stop moving your body. If it's injured, move it. If it's hurts, move it. If it's tired, move it. Like,
yep. Well, that's a good lesson. I wish more people thought like that.
Yeah.
I've never I usually don't say if you don't move you die, but it pretty much is true. But I always look at it as like especially with rehab, movement's the cure.
Yeah.
It's funny contrasting like the advice you get about your biceps. Okay, you have to be in this brace, right? But it's like you have a full hip replacement and 2 hours later they have you walking.
Yeah.
Right. So like why is that? I know there's, we're kind of generalizing here, but it's like movement secure. And I think that's why people don't get as much out of their rehab or eventually don't have as good of outcomes is because nobody really tells them that the cure to all of this is that you have to do a bunch of work. You have to move.
Yeah.
It's always like, no, just come to me and I'll put ultrasound on it for you. I'll do the red light laser therapy or whatever. I'll manipulate your structures where it's like, no, you have to get that tissue. You have to move. Obviously there's constraints around that. You don't want to move into pain. You have to be cautious. You have to listen to your body and not push it too hard. But I think you're sharing the same sentiment that like, you got to move stuff to get going. So it's great that you had such a cool foundation and that Cal had that, impressed that on you and you carried it through until now.
I always have, and I feel like it's kept me so healthy and just in life.
Right.
So I've never to have completely abandoned your fear of movement when you're hurting is really liberating mentally and physically because you don't have a fear of it.
Right.
You've learned to trust that the movement will heal you.
Yep.
And I know we can't. People would want to be devil's advocate and be like, "Oh, if you're paralyzed, that one." I'm not talking about that. We're not talking about grievous, paralysis or spinal cord injuries or like we're talking about just like your general life. Your knees hurt, your hips hurt, you had a knee replacement, you had whatever, an arm surgery. Let's not pretend like it's not magic.
Right.
So, but I came up with a plan, and in my head I called it, extremely aggressive, but with like unshakable discipline. Like that was my approach. And I looked at it as that it obviously had the practical side of how am I going to move, right? It had the chemical side of like, the biochemistry of like, okay, what supplements and peptides can I take that can, speed this along?
Yeah.
There's a genetic component. I don't want to deny. Everybody has a different ability of resiliency and recovery. I tend to have like I fall on this side of the bell curve. Like I'm really lucky that way.
Yeah.
I heal fast, recover fast. And then there's a big part, I think, which affects overall health and recovery, which is mindset.
Right.
That's a big unspoken part about. We talk about it a lot in performance. We don't talk about it enough in overcoming injuries and rehabilitation, because when you get hurt, it has a tendency to mess with even the most confident people's mindset.
100%. I learned a long time ago, I like to tell people, it's like when you get hurt, or even when you do minor damage, like from training, right?
Yep.
Your body stiffens up as a protective mechanism.
Yep.
But as a conscious human being, you can override that, right?
Yep.
You can know that your body is acting that way and go, that's okay. Thank you. That's fine. But I'll
Yep.
take it from here. I'm going to move through that, right?
Yep.
And there's smart ways to do it, of course. But I think that's, I think you're right, that like mindset and understanding how your body works, and then just saying, no, I'm not going to accept this, and moving through it in an intelligent manner can make all the difference.
Yep, it is. It really does. And there's, there's the mindset of that, and then there's also a mindset of belief that's involved, because
Mm.
your beliefs form a construct for all the things you're going to choose to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like people sometimes like to, joke about, they romanticize mindset sometimes with the whole crowd of like manifestation and everything.
Okay.
When if you break down the science of what's going on there, it's that having the right mindset leads to thousands of micro subconscious decisions that, that are real things happening that change outcomes. It's
Right.
not magic, there's nothing magical about it. It's
Yep.
it's it's that the attitude that those beliefs form a construct, and then that applies to every small and big choice you're making that is affected by that construct. So you can think something is absurd, like I'll tell myself, and like like I have like mantras I say, like as I'm getting closer to competing, that I use to just really get into that super sympathetic state where you're like just out of your mind, ready to train. And one of the lines of it is I say to myself, like, um, I say, like, I cannot be hurt. Like I literally say that I can't be hurt. I cannot be hurt. I cannot be stopped. Right.
Yep.
And of course that's not true.
Right.
Right. But I will convince myself that it's true, to the point that what I think is happening is, then it's not magic. It's that then I'm so focused on my movements, and I'm so zoned in on how I use my body, that I'm putting myself in the best position not to get hurt.
Yep.
Right.
Makes
It's
sense.
starting at this crazy sounding place, but it has a real application.
Right.
So
Makes sense. And you know what? Even if it was a placebo effect, it still is working for you. So
that's just the thing. The placebo effect is real.
right.
That's the whole point of what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Is it's a real studied, observable phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's that? The best one we've had in recent years that I keep seeing rehashed over and over again is that milkshake placebo effect study. Did you ever see that?
No.
So they gave participants the same milkshake, randomized.
Uh-huh.
And one group of participants, they said it was like, oh, this is a regular milkshake, with this high fat, da da da. And the other group of participants, they said, oh, this is a new milkshake. It's low fat, low sugar, high protein, da da da.
Yep.
And it acted, the responses biochemically in each group, insulin, all of that was different.
Mm.
Not like oh, a little bit, like largely statistically significantly different biochemical reactions to the food, which
Okay.
I think at one point someone would say that's insane, that's not possible, but
Right.
that's one of many studies they've done, being like, wow, like your mind's, how your mind thinks about things affects your body, and it does.
Right. It's interesting. Personally, I use like mantras, or maybe more abstractly, it's like the idea of speaking it into existence.
Yes.
So thinking it is one thing, but I've found the more I say it out loud, the more you're actually speaking it into existence. It comes to be. Same thing with rehab. Like I hurt myself at provincials maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, and then I had another contest come up, and I just was saying out loud, like, I'm going to go to this contest and I'm going to set this international record.
Yes.
Right. And it didn't really I went to see medical professionals, and they wouldn't recommend me doing what I did. And looking back, was it the smartest thing ever? I'm fine now, but I did it. Maybe I shouldn't have. But it was all about that, speaking into existence, telling people, hey, I'm going to do this. I mean, it kind of holds you accountable, but even just personally, your mind is like, goes to a different place. Even if sometimes you have doubts, you just keep saying it to yourself and to others. And I found that to be very powerful and actually, like, it works for me at least.
So I unequivocally, with no doubt, there's not a shred of doubt. I 100% believed and believe that everything I've been doing is working, will work, won't hurt. Anytime I've attempted something, like as I've edged it forward, I've never thought like, oh man, I better be careful. Like, oh, this could hurt. Never. I'm always
Right.
like, I've always believed, oh, perfect. This is the next thing I should do. This is the next amount I should load.
Yep.
This is the exact right plan. And it's every single step of the way.
Well, it's working seemingly, so it's awesome.
So, I appreciate this conversation because it's let me mentally form a more organized kind of map of like what I did step by step that
Yep.
I can share with you. That I want to put, I'd like to put it in a little like PDF to just people can just download for free. I don't want to gatekeep it. We pay enough in Strongman
Yep.
for stuff, but just something for people to consider if they get injured. Something helpful, just a free resource for folks. So, because I think it would work with a lot of different types of injuries that are soft tissue related. So,
Yep.
So the first thing I did, if you want to jump into it,
I was just going to ask you if you could just, even if it's abstractly, like a high level, what are the things you're doing for your protocol?
So the first thing I did was, I was patient that first like 2 days, that first 48 hours. I rested. I slept as much as I want. I medicated however I wanted.
Yep.
I ate whatever I wanted. No, just whatever, just trust in my body, right? I didn't use NSAIDs. I did use like the narcotic painkiller they gave for a bit, just to for sleep and stuff.
Right.
But I did not use any. The one thing I didn't do is I didn't use anti-inflammatories. I don't know if that was important or not. I just wanted to try. I don't think taking them would have had any significant impact on like slowing things down. So I don't want to say I'm a proponent of that, like the first couple days at least.
Yep.
But I just want to see what would happen if I didn't take them, and also if I didn't ice it, because that's a big thing. Is they want you icing 80,000 times a day.
Right.
And I was like, well, all of us now, I think, have read the studies on icing, not being effective for injuries.
Yeah, right.
For acute swelling, acute, trauma. So that was just pure like experimentation, and I don't have any amount of data to say it was better or worse. That's what I tried.
Yep.
And then as soon as I got out of that 2 days, right, I knew it was a Friday surgery, and I wanted to be back to work by Tuesday.
Okay.
So then late Sunday, and then Monday, I just started with proprioception, body awareness, because your arm's numb. Like it's completely paralyzed for that first day, like day and a half. So you really can't do anything. So first I was like, okay, I'm getting my feeling back in my arm. So then I got my feeling back in my arm, right? And there's nothing, I just mentally was like, okay, I'm gonna get my feeling back. And then as soon as I had that, I was like, okay, now I want to reconnect my proprioception to this area of my body. And I said, I can't use my bicep directly because you're in the actual surgical cast,
Yep.
I said, but I can use adjacent muscles to at least feel my arm. So I went and I your hands in a fist in the surgical thing. So I just stood and I just put my fist against the wall. And first I just started like through my fist, feeling me like flex my pec a little bit gently, right?
Yep.
And then I started kind of like just pushing away from the wall just an inch or two, so I could kind of feel my lat, You know, I want to feel my lat stabilizing my shoulder. I want to feel my rear delt, you know, kind of feeling pressure. I want to feel my front delt. And then over the course of like to the next day, then when I was doing that, besides just your general, like, you know, rotating your arm, you know, swinging it back and forth, then the next day I moved into where like I actually wanted to feel in my elbow, you know, okay, I want to feel my tricep flexing, this ice, almost like a kind of a gentle isometric with like a 1 inch range of motion because I'm in this brace. And that did wonders. Like that dissipated fluid, that dissipated swelling, that made me feel like I was making light speed progress, just like that. So then I kept just, that's all I did. I stayed in my brace. I went in on Tuesday morning before I went to work though.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to quick get in and get into the um, like the regular brace they make you out of the surgical brace. Someone got fitted for that, you know, went to work, didn't use that arm, obviously, was very careful, you know, just to use my other hand for things. Um, and then Wednesday was my first day back at the gym. So what is that, 5 days post-op?
Yep.
And my approach there was I did the isometrics, I did legs. I waited till I felt like I had a lot of blood flow, you know, really warmed up in the body. I did some isolateral work. But even that first day in the gym in my surgical brace, like you can go back in the videos and see, I did things like I put 10 pounds on like a back machine, right? And I'd hold it with my good arm and I just rest the surgery arm on the other handle.
Yep.
And I would just let my left arm just take kind of like a dance partner, just take it gently through just a little movement.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was wearing my brace that first day, so it was still relatively immobilized, but I could still bring my shoulder, my lat, and my elbow a bit through.
Yep.
Because it's not skin tight. You can move a little in there.
Yep.
And then I just did that. I did that. I took a 1 pound dumbbell and I just held it in that arm while I did the chest press on the other side. Same thing with the shoulder, just to have, you know, to start like that little micro journey of stabilization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I've looked at this the whole time, is it was just these micro improvements, you know, where even though you're feeling good, staying disciplined to keep it micro improvements. And from there, about 2 weeks in, I stopped wearing my brace except for when I was at work.
Okay.
So by like the end of the first week, so like around a week to 8-9 days post-op, I was only wearing that immobilization brace when I was at work. When I would get home, I would take it off. I would be careful. I would, you know, I would let it move with gravity.
Mm-hmm.
I would rest it a lot, like on pillows. I'd massage it a lot. I did lots of red light, of red. I have like a red light belt. You can get them on Amazon. I would just wrap it in the arm and I'd sit when we're watching a movie or whatever. So that seemed to help a lot. I really believe in red light therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big thing. And then I would just around the house, I would just test the waters gently. I would pick up something that weighed a pound, see, how it would feel. And
Mm-hmm.
then I pick up something just incrementally heavier, just these little tiny building blocks. And then I'd see, okay, now can I hold it? How straight can my arm be while I hold this?
Right.
Can I hold it at 90? Can I hold it at whatever? And I would lay down in my bed and I would just let my arm fall. Right. So it took 2.5 weeks to get where, and I probably could have pushed it, but I didn't want to. As soon as I would feel like the tightness building at the surgical site, I would stop and just put a pillow there and just relax. Just breathe into it. No pain, no strain, whatever. And it slowly got better and better and better till it was straight. And then that's when, right at that point where it was almost straight, that's when I really started like pushing it with the gym. That's when I started with bands, just a really light band. And I started just doing like, really light loaded like eccentric. Like start up here, let that upper tendon and bicep kind of unload, let the lower one unload. And I'd keep my other hand there for safety just in case, if something too hard. And just just try to let it like gently straighten the arm. And then I'd hold in a lot of like 90-degree flexion isos, just with that like 4 or 5 pounds of band tension. And then I would get a little bit more liberal with, like the machines. Now I'm taking it through the full range of motion. I'm starting to get what I started to think of was, okay, I want to do indirect elbow flexion, right? Using adjacent muscles and antagonists.
Okay.
So no bicep loading, no curls, but let's start going really light on like the row machine. Let's start going really light on a dumbbell row. Let's start going really light on an overhead press, on a tricep push down. So still the bicep can stay long, stay relaxed, but you're getting movement through elbow flexion. So you're like antagonistically letting the tendon work in more of a relaxed state. So, we're building that. And then we got to about that, like I say, it looks like I think it was about 3-week mark is when that's when I first did like an actual, started doing like dumbbell hammer curl. Just started light there, and now we're progressing that up to where this week I did a set with a 20-pound dumbbell.
Right.
That 26 days post-op. And then, the thing I just posted, and then that's all built to doing that indirect work, that indirect flexion work. I think that's what's led to me being able to now, like I've been doing sandbag picks with light sandbag. I did a set of RDLs with 120 kilos without a toe strap. I've been doing, I've been loading heavier on like the single arm pull downs. I was cleaning the empty circus dumbbell. I was doing the empty rogue log out of the rack. So I think if I could say from a movement perspective, what I think was the most helpful is I think something I've never heard anyone talk about, and I don't want to take credit for it if someone else thought of it, but man, that indirect elbow flexion work using adjacent and antagonistic muscle groups, I think nothing comes close to that as far as what sped this recovery along.
Right.
So like that to me was the absolute meat and potatoes of this, from the movement standpoint of this protocol. Was that just, it made it light speed along, I think. The comfort, the trust, and even the trust in it moving.
Right.
Like yesterday after I did the that workout yesterday where I was doing like the real RDLs and stuff, really focused on just keeping that bicep long. That was the first day where I felt like it was completely relaxed, like really relaxed straight all the way, lengthened. That I wasn't like kind of holding it a little bent, like subconsciously.
Right. And that was what, maybe you said it was 30 days or so post-op?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really good though. And what'd you use on 120 kilos, you said?
Yeah, just a set of 10, 120 kilos with, little VersaGrip straps. And I just, like I said, I would look, if you see the whole video, I look at my arm a few times to enhance that proprioception of like, okay, don't guard it because you want to. Yes. Because even just that knowing it was injured, knowing that it's weaker, knowing there's a little atrophy, you want to guard it, and the body is so dumb in the way that it wants to bend the elbow to do that. It's so stupid. It makes no sense, but it's what it wants to do. I just kept thinking like, okay, like I'm doing a tricep push down. I'm going to keep that tricep a little flexed. I'm going to keep the bicep long. And I would just kind of look at it to remind it like who's boss, like, hey, don't start bending there. Like we've been down that road before. So,
well, that's good that you're doing that, because even if you weren't doing the, what would you say, extreme stuff from some people's perspective that you're doing now, just that mental model, I think for anybody is very useful, right? Look at the body part and think about technique. And here's the other, like something we probably don't talk about enough is when you're healthy and you're really into optimizing your performance, all you think about is technique. So why not when you're injured? Right.
More so, right?
Right. Exactly. I would agree with you. It's even more important to do so.
And I did that. I really did that yesterday when I was doing. It was the first day I tried doing some suitcase deadlifts with the recovered arm.
Yep.
So I took the empty farmers and just kind of warmed up, right?
Yep.
20 kilo, and then I jumped to with the farmers and weight it was 60 kilos, no 40 kilos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on that set, I would that time I kind of closed my eyes. And I said, okay, I told myself, all right, my arm's just a hook here, right? So I
Yep.
focused on a strong grip, strong forearm, right? Long bicep.
Keep it long.
And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to initiate this. And I slowly built tension in the hips and the glutes and the hamstrings to break the ground, right? And then in my mind, I felt, okay, now, my lat's bracing, my upper body, I'm not using my bicep. And I kept going through that kind of like firing chain. Rep by rep by rep, and then I loaded up another 20 kilos, and it just kept being comfortable. And just to make sure, again, because we have this strange tendency when we're hurt, it's this weird counterintuitive thing that the body will almost it'll fire your muscles in the way that was the worst possible way for the injured part.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, if you don't focus on firing the right way when you're injured, your body will like fire the muscle that's hurt in the wrong way. It's just a weird, it's always fascinated me actually.
Yep.
That it's kind of like the opposite of you think your body's not protecting you. So you've got to steer the ship really consciously.
For sure. Well, you just think about it around your elbow, like
Yep.
especially you have very strong muscles, right? And so if you're not careful, those things will take over and your biceps might not be ready for it, right?
Exactly.
And your body will just do that. Like you've ingrained motion patterns from decades of lifting.
Yep.
That when you go pick up that suitcase deadlift, right?
Yep.
All your muscles are going to just fire how they normally do.
Yep.
You have to be so careful to say no. It has to be so intentional, right?
Yep.
And that might be a reason you might be getting onto why physiotherapists or something might want you to do your exercise under supervision.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is like me or you who is very in tune with their body, and their body will just go to the patterns that may have even caused the injury.
Of course.
And so, but if you're thoughtful about it, I think that you can have really good outcomes. And I think what you're doing is a testament to that.
Well, think about it. How many lay people, how many non-athletes, even athletes, probably some athletes, don't know what the word proprioception even means?
Yeah, probably nobody.
Go ask 100 people. Go walk on the street and ask 100 people what that means.
Mm-hmm.
How many you think would know? 0, 1, 2, maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
All right, ask 100 athletes now. How many you think would know what it means? I'm serious. You can see what that's a problem in and of itself.
Yes. And even if the athletes don't know it by that name,
yep.
If you described it a little bit or called it something else, they would be like, oh, yeah, okay. I know what you mean.
I got it. If you call it the mind-muscle connection.
Right, yeah.
Right?
They'll know exactly.
They'll know exactly.
100%, yeah.
And even though your individual muscles, they're not sentient, they don't have their own consciousness. When you do what we just described, when you really control the environment to make it safe for the injured muscle group, you can feel it like it starts to relax.
Yep.
It's like it's if it were sentient and it's trust. You're like building trust with it,
right? And then integrating it. Yep.
Yeah, you're creating like a new, and it's really just you projecting. You're just trusting yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a projection onto like the injury. We project on our injury like it's its own entity.
Yes.
But we're just learning to trust ourselves again.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. You kind of, when it happens, it almost feels like something foreign inside of you, right?
Yes.
But it's still all you that it's just an injured tissue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's trying to integrate that back in and feeling like whole with it, right?
Exactly. And, so now from where I'm at, I'm going to continue the same way.
Yep.
And in week 4 is when the progress started to feel exponential. And that proved out at the end of the week, making such a huge leap forward.
Yep.
And so I know now this next kind of like 4 to 5 weeks is really going to be where I have to apply the most discipline, because I'm going to feel good, but I've got to stick with this plan.
Yes.
And not be greedy, because then I know at the end of this next period, I truly believe I can be 100% ready to do like a real for real training block, no restrictions to get ready for the contest.
Yep. It's
So,
funny you say that because so looking at the last video you tagged me in from your day 30,
yep.
As soon as I saw that, my instinct was like, oh, this guy's ready,
Yeah.
right? Like things are looking good. The way you're controlling your body, the range of motion you have, the strength you're getting, you're curling 20-pound dumbbell now. It indicates like you said, exponential process or progress. Things are in the right direction. But I had the same thought afterwards as you just said, which is settle down.
Yep.
Be if you are super disciplined for the next couple months.
Yep.
I agree. You will be 100% back to normal, and you'll be able to train how you want. You won't be hesitant with any of the lifts, right? You'll probably might take a bit more with the Moss wrestling mentally, but like your body will be ready if you're disciplined, right? So
Exactly.
I'm glad that you're thinking like that, because this is a really good point. I think we should emphasize that when you have good progress with rehab, which hopefully you do, but it doesn't always happen. It's so easy to let your ego take over and just go, oh, okay, so I'm better now, and I can just jump right back into the normal training I do, and things should be great. And that's usually where you get either injured or you actually stunt the outcomes, right? So maybe you never get back to 100, right?
The amount of discipline for this part of the process is by far the most, because when the early part, unless you're just really foolish, you're just so cautious that caution and discipline become intertwined.
Yep.
But now when the caution's starting to leave, this is when the discipline has to be on point.
Yep. 100%. But if it is, I think you're 100% right. You will get back to exactly where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's fun is that all my friends who've done it, like the surgery, like everyone always says, like, once it is done, when you've had this procedure, like it feels like indestructible, because the reattachment's stronger than your natural attachment.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. So if you injured again, it's going to be at the other end, right?
yeah, exactly. So and I don't, we didn't touch a lot on it, but because I think this is by far, this is the huge bulk of it, but also making sure you can get in good positions to sleep well.
Yeah.
Not only not stopping your athlete performance nutrition diet, but making sure it stays just as dialed in, if not more so. That's been like, I kept, I didn't stop working with my coaches. I started a new meal plan, even that was even more structured,
right,
and disciplined, to make sure that I'm getting everything I need and not causing any type of like global inflammation.
Right. Yeah, and you kind of maybe you could. So you talked about the movement side. What else are you doing for rehab? You mentioned like supplements, peptides. We're talking about sleep, hydration. Yeah. What does that stuff look like for you?
So the sleep, the hydration, all of that stuff looks like the same as if I was getting ready to compete.
Okay.
Like, treating my body like an athlete,
Yep.
who's training like an athlete. So I'm probably I'm eating all meats and potatoes and rice and fruit and all healthy food. It's probably 95+% all whole clean foods that you would expect to eat as an athlete.
Yep.
Supplement wise, I'm not taking anything crazy that someone else wouldn't think of. I'm just taking all your normal stuff, your basic vitamin mineral support, that gets depleted. So nothing earth shattering there. I'm sure a lot of approaches would work there. And then on the other side of things, on the peptide side of things, I had some coaches. I had two different coaches in the last couple of years who really helped teach me about peptide protocols. And I used what would be considered an extremely aggressive peptide protocol.
Okay.
For this time. So there was multiple peptides, way beyond your the TB 500 and BPC 157 that anyone who might listen to this is probably familiar with. I am going to write that up. I think it would probably be a disservice to try to like generalize it now on a podcast, but I'm going to write it up, and because I'm going to do this book for this little PDF for free, someone can take with that and do what they want. But like I said, it was many things. It was, it was probably at one point, I think at the one point there were 8 different peptides being used. So, and I think there's some diminishing returns with that, like there are with other things. I probably, in talking with other coaches, I probably would have gotten 80 to 90% of the results with less aggressive of a protocol. But I wanted to really push it to get every drop I could out of the process to really, I wanted to see how far this could go. And unfortunately, we don't have data and we don't have studies to back up. Like I can't clone myself and say, it helped this much. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
I can't isolate who I am as a human biologically and mentally and say, okay, it helped me 2 weeks along, 4 weeks along. It did 80% of the work. It did 20. It helped a lot. I know that. Yeah, I mean, unequivocally, I know that it helped a lot. I just don't know how much it accounts for.
I agree. Well, we need studies on that, right? Controlled studies where you control all the variables and then you can actually have some good data on it. But when you're an athlete and you're looking to get back to, this crazy performance, why not throw the kitchen sink at it, man? And just do everything you can, because in rehab, the sooner and the more frequent the interventions, the better the outcomes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd love to hear more once you get through about like your actual protocol, what you did. Because there's no studies, but if you get enough anecdotes, right, from people like yourself who've been through it, you might be able to find some gems of information in there. And if that helps people recover better and get back to sport, then I mean, why not share that information?
You'd be surprised. It's exploding. Like if you go on to Google Scholar and you look up any of these peptides, the amount of research is exploding. And you can find a lot. You can find empirical data. It's not huge yet, but you can find snippets of empirical data for a lot of this stuff. And then from like a common sense perspective, the way that I structured the peptides with, like I said, kind of outside advisement from coaches is we're trying to approach all the things happening, right? So you've got inflammation to deal with. You've got regeneration to deal with. You've got blood flow to deal with. You've got a hole in your bone to deal with, right? You want to be getting maximum nutrients to the area. You want to be making sure the lymphatic fluid's draining out. So it was more of a, okay, here's an issue. Do we have a peptide that helps with this?
Right.
And then is there a peptide that then enhances how well this other peptide works?
Right.
And that's so it's not structured like willy-nilly. It is methodically designed and approached. And then I can't express enough. So if someone does want to take a little piece of data, though, if someone's going to make their own protocol and use some TB 500 or be some of the things that are more well known, don't sleep on how much red light helps. So after you administer these peptides directly to the site, getting it under the red light right away, because the red light penetrates so deeply into the tissues. I don't think we talk enough about how beneficial red light therapy can be for injuries. And it helps, it enhances, I think, the peptides as well.
Yeah. It's hard to say what does how much, but like if you have access to it all, why not get after it,
And these red light belts I think they're like $80-$90 on Amazon. And
so very affordable.
You can wrap them around your elbow. You can wear them around your back. You can put them on your knees.
That's awesome. Okay. So I want to know, I was curious, why are you sharing your journey? Is it like just you love to kind of post your training, or is it more like there's some other purpose to this? And maybe we hinted at this already a bit.
Yes. So as I get closer to, there's some point where I want to do some other things professionally.
Okay.
I have a small background in doing some speaking and writing and some other stuff. I do, I work on a lot of mindset approaches, and I have some messaging. I hate to use the word on brand or whatever, but um, I'm really trying to build this messaging around that, you know, people can do a lot more than they realize they can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being an over 40 athlete, I think that being someone who works in his trades, I think that being a regular guy, with a big family and stuff, I think it lends a certain amount of credibility and experience to, don't sell yourself short.
Yep.
I think it's a lot. Sometimes people are more hesitant from that messaging from like a 20 something, multimillionaire. Whereas like someone who's just living their regular life and has all the same demands you do,
Mm-hmm.
and is a little bit older, I think it lends a certain credibility to that messaging.
Yep.
Like you can strive for more. And I really just wanted to, again, I wanted to use this injury as an opportunity because I viewed it right away. There wasn't a moment that I was all downtrodden and depressed and whatever. And everyone should process in their own way. Like if you want to take a day to be mad and angry, do it. Like it doesn't make you a bad person.
Right.
I just wasn't, because the way I need to cope with things, because I have so much I'm responsible for, in my life and my family, is when obstacles happen to me, I have to find a way to transform them into opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately thought, how is this going to make me better? I was like, okay, I'm going to be able to focus on lower body a lot, which I've really put off, and it's been a weakness of mine. I'm going to be able to do that. Like I started immediately. I was like, okay, I'm going to be able to figure out how to heal faster. It started popping off, and then one of those ideas was, I can use this to push the boundaries of how fast you can recover.
Yep.
So then I'll both have the information that might help some other people practically from an injury standpoint. I was like, and I can also talk about how the mindset I used helped, and
Right.
people can benefit from that. And, and assuming knock on wood, everything goes well, I think I'll have probably one of the most rapid returns to a world level competition ever heard of in strongman, to be honest. And that's the goal. I really want to show people what's possible. And I want that to inspire someone. I want it to help someone. And that's why I'm going to make that PDF just a free download. We'd have enough gatekeeping in strongman, like I said. So I wanted my injury to benefit someone else.
That's awesome.
So
I love it. I love the message, and it is benefiting people. I share the same sentiment as you, which is exactly why I wanted to talk to you about this, and see if we can share this even further and show people that there is another way. You just have to be smart about it. You have to be curious, open-minded, and you can get back to lifting whatever you'd like to lift.
You said a word there that's so important that we don't talk about enough, and it lends into some other things that how I approach training. You said the word curious, right? We don't have enough curiosity, and curiosity is like, it's a bedfellow to joy and purpose and wonder and fun and happiness. Like those are all bedfellows. And when you approach rehab, training, your diet, other people, even with curiosity instead of like preconceived notions, it's amazing how things change for you.
Right.
And it helps open you up to kind of that mindset stuff I was talking about. It helps open you up to what am I really capable of?
Right.
Like what's really possible here? And it's a really cool shift to just be curious. And I grew up in a family that's like that. Everyone in my family is carpenters, artists, teachers, musicians. It's just a lot of that. And I just thought that was normal. And then I grew up and I find out most families aren't like that. And it's more like step A, step B, step C, step D. But it's been a really a gift, and it's like I said, just going back to that original thing. I just, whether it's rehab, whether it's training, whether it's business, whether it's who you are as a person, how you look at the world, I have this obsession and this passion that we just aren't realizing what we're capable of, and I want to help people see what they're capable of.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. If anyone wants to learn more about you, Michael, where can they find you?
Right now, I was building quite a TikTok following, but I that's it's a strange platform over there, so I'll get back to it someday. But for right now, it's just on Instagram, just with the Norseman. You know, that's how you find me. I haven't expanded anywhere beyond that. That's just where I want to keep things for now until I get a website going for this kind of mission. So
Right. Well, that sounds great. I am really interested to talk to you more about that. Maybe we can come up with something else that we can put out and like help people. I'd love to keep following your journey and sharing it, and hopefully see you get back to some amazing things. So
no, I'm looking forward to it. I think that there's something there, and I think that's why it's so great to have these conversations. So let's do that.
awesome. All right. Well, great chatting with you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate
Take care.
it. You too.